can put all the technology you want on a truck, and there's a lot of it available today, but someone still has to drive the thing. That means the technology has to work for and with the drivers, not against them, and the cab has to be a comfortable place to work. After all, many drivers literally live in their trucks. Kenworth T680 exceeds expectations in all respects. Hi, I'm Jim Park. For today's Trucking's Ultimate Test Drive series, we're going to wrap things up in our three-part test drive with a look at the T680's driving environment and some of the technology that's designed to make the driver's life safer, easier, and more enjoyable. The first thing you notice when you're driving this truck is how darn quiet it is.
The MX-13 is a relatively quiet engine to begin with, and this T680 cab is really solid. It's really quiet. And of course, with all the aerodynamic enhancements on the outside, you've got virtually no wind noise. We drove this at Mid-America a couple of years ago when it was first introduced, and I can remember driving south of Louisville on I-65. Raindrops that were hitting the windshield were making more noise than the engine or the road noise or the wind noise around the truck. It was quite surprising to hear that.
So how quiet is it?
Coming along here at just over 55, no particular load on the engine on flat ground. My iPhone's showing 74 dB. That's pretty quiet. At idle a few minutes ago, I noticed it was showing 71, and that's with the air conditioning fan on. Turn that sucker off for a moment. The air conditioning's off right now. And we are in a bit of a pull here at 1,000 RPM, getting some low end noise. And at 1,000, pulling this little hill here at 50 miles an hour, I'm getting a reading of 76 on the iPhone sound meter.
The T680 Advantage is all about fuel economy. In parts 1 and 2 of this test drive, I focused on the engine, transmission, and aerodynamic package, but there are several other add-ons that also contribute to the T680's impressive fuel economy. It comes equipped with an electronic speed limiter designed to limit road speed for fuel economy, and an idle shutdown timer that prevents unnecessary idling. Kenworth claims an estimated gain of about 1/10 of a mile per gallon for every mile per hour reduction in road speed, and as we all know, idling a big diesel burns about 1 gallon of fuel every hour. But since drivers live and sleep in their trucks, they need an effective no-idle climate control system. That's why Kenworth went with this factory-installed, battery-based APU system to provide the air conditioning in the summer and a fuel-fired heater to provide engine-off heating in the colder months. From a driving perspective, Kenworth integrated both the radio controls and the cruise control switches into the steering wheel, so drivers won't have to take their hands off the wheel to adjust either of them. The cruise control on this truck also engages the Bendix Wingman Advanced system with adaptive cruise, which is kind of like an early warning system against potential rear-end collisions. When the system senses an unsafe distance between the truck and something out front, and that distance continues to close, it prompts the driver to back off the throttle. And if the object continues to get too close, the Wingman Advanced system will unilaterally apply the brakes. I tested the Wingman Advanced a few times and found it effective without being overly intrusive. As for the driver display, the Driver Performance Center provides the driver with lots of detailed information and notifications that should help keep the truck running smoothly and at the lowest possible cost. For example, there's a bright, bold bar with big numbers that tells the driver when they're in the fuel economy sweet spot. There's also the Bendix Smart Tire tire pressure monitoring system. That alerts drivers to an underinflated tire, which can prevent blowouts and optimize rolling resistance for better fuel economy. There's even a few decidedly low-tech design features that improve the driving experience, like the terrific mirror placement.
I really like the mirrors in this truck. There's two things about them. They're low. They're mounted low on the body, so that when you're looking out above the mirror, you can still see, beyond it what you might be looking at if the mirror weren't in the way, which is going to prevent some sort of blind spot issues at some point in time. Also, the one on the right-hand side is set quite a ways forward of the driver's seat, so when you're at a T intersection, for example, and looking right and left before you pull out into traffic. Sometimes those mirrors on the right-hand side, especially these big aerodynamic mirrors, can get right in the way and can obscure what's coming at you, from the side. Whereas these are set in such a way, far enough forward, that really doesn't obscure your vision of what's coming down the road at you from the side. And the same pretty much applies to the mirrors on the left, although they don't get in the way generally anyway, but the fact that they're low does eliminate the big blind spot when you're looking sort of forward and left or forward and right.
This truck handles like a cat with glue on his feet. The steering is firm and responsive with no tendency to wander. Even on narrow, high-crown roads like this one, I had all the confidence in the world of my position in the lane. One thing I don't see often, or I should say feel, is trucks equipped with air disc brakes at every wheel position, like this one has. They are optional, but once a driver experiences the feel and performance of air disc brakes, they'll never want to go back to drum brakes, in my not too humble opinion. I guess that covers most of the driver comfort and performance features on the T680 Advantage, but before we wrap up, here's a final observation about today's powertrain technology and how it's transforming the way we drive.
Just to provide some background on how much these transmissions have changed, and the engines too. 20 years ago, it was pretty common to take an engine up to 2,000 RPM before making an upshift. With this engine, it goes to 15 before making the upshift, dropping the revs back down to 1,000 or so, which is pretty remarkable. It's a 500 RPM drop in engine speed over the years, and they say roughly every 100 RPM reduction in engine speed is about a 1 to 2% improvement in fuel efficiency. I would even go so far as to say this thing is taking the RPMs lower than a lot of drivers would, because the tendency would be to assume that 1,000 RPM is too low. Now, it's not anymore, certainly, with the low torque engines, and this transmission is taking every advantage possible of the low RPM functionality and torque in the MX-13 engine.
Kenworth left no stone unturned in squeezing every bit of efficiency out of the T680 Advantage. I can see this truck appealing to both cost and style-conscious fleets and owner-operators alike. It certainly won't be the least expensive truck on the market, but Kenworth is pretty confident that its low operating costs will make it a strong contender for the low total cost of ownership category. Trucking today is ultra-competitive, and fleets need every advantage they can get to stay in the game. I guess that's why they call this truck the Advantage Edition. There are two other videos in our road test series. Part 1 is a quick walk around of the T680 Advantage, and the other takes an in-depth look at the T680's powertrain combo, the MX-13 engine, and Eaton's automated Advantage transmission. Make sure you check those out as well. From Chillicothe, Ohio, I'm Jim Park for today's Trucking's Ultimate Test Drive series. Drive safe and keep your revs down.